Yes. All right. Sorry, everyone. This is really seriously interesting what's happening here today. This is technicalities, as in, yes, technology on steroids. That's what I want to say. I could hear myself talk 3 times. All right. Welcome back to the 3 days to navigating your breast healing cancer journey. And I have with me again Barbara, who is my co host. And I want to thank you, Barbara, for being here today. And if you are watching me on live, Facebook Live, I want to put a plug in for Barbara. Barbara is a coach, and she has been a coach, like I have been a coach for a very long time. And we both have had a journey, a healing journey through trauma and body breakdowns. And Barbara is actually working with women, and she has a Facebook group called Sisters Rocking Courage. So I highly recommend that you go there and click on it and join her group because she's pretty awesome working with women who actually want to overcome the effect of trauma and starting, launching, growing businesses. So at the end, you can say a little bit more, Barbara. Thank you for being here today. I'm very grateful. So,
Thank you.
welcome back. This is day 2, and we are talking about diving into the healer within or the wisdom within. So, and why am I talking about this is I put a plug in yesterday for how the heart center is actually, it's called the seat of the soul. In yoga, they call it the second chakra is called the seat of the self, and the heart center is called the seat of the soul. So today we're talking about how to access and how to take a seat inside your own heart to really hear and connect to deeper, higher wisdom. So, and I'm actually going to guide you through an experiment where you can actually hear and feel what it means to hear your own wisdom. And before we get into the experiment, because it's going to be an experiential live, Facebook Live moment today, I want to review what we covered yesterday. And I also want to announce our winner because we do have one person that participated in our contest. Yes. And she is going to get a CD from, okay, hold on a second. I have to get this thing going. Hold on. So she's going to get a CD from Deepak Chopra, and it's a meditation that I actually have practiced for, oh gosh, I want to say 60 days. That was my way of connecting to that. And hold on a second. I just want to share my screen because I don't think that it is there yet. Here we are. Okay. I'm telling you, technology is definitely my friend because it allows us to connect. And at the same time, it is very challenging at times when you have glitches. So here we are. So yesterday we talked about the fight, freeze, and fawn, and fight, freeze, flight, frozen response. Anyways, I'm tripping over myself. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, response. And it was really about you finding your own reaction. So I talked about trauma, and I talked about how we are all wired to survive and how the brain, the thinking brain, takes a step back when we have a life-threatening illness, and breast cancer can feel and sound like a life-threatening illness. So we get into that reaction mode, and it is important to make a decision to shift that reaction because otherwise we're generating a series of hormones in our body that depletes the immune system. Now, when we have a health crisis, it is important to actually enhance that system. The immune system has to kick in order to really heal. And I talked about the bigger picture of who we are, which is what we're focusing on today. The heart center taking a seat in a seat of the soul is really about being bigger than what's happening in the moment. And we talked about so many ways to decrease fear: physically, movement, breath, emotionally, releasing, processing, finding ways to let go of emotions that are stuck, and especially grief, into the heart center. We talked about mentally how we focus our mind and how our mind can really wreak havoc on our physical, emotional reality. The thoughts we have and the thoughts we think are actually having an impact on our entire body system. And then we talked about life depleting, life enhancing. All these habits basically are either life depleting or life enhancing. And then we talked about our spiritual connection, which is really what we're diving in today. So I have a quote here. It says, "It takes courage to grow up and become really who we are." So I view a health crisis as a life moment, a life defining moment, as a life breakthrough. It's not the end of it all. And I know that I may not have many friends when I say this, that breast cancer does not have to be a life sentence or a death sentence. So I'm just claiming this, and I keep repeating it. Again, that's what I put in my mind. And that's what I want to focus on today. So I'm just curious to see if anyone has anything to say, maybe on the chat and maybe here, about what stuck with you on what we talked about yesterday. If anyone wants to pipe in and just share either what is your fear response and how do you balance it out. And just curious to see what is most, I know that Melissa posted on her in the group about how she does her qigong practice. She does the form and then she lets it go, and how she allows for emotional release to happen. And she even posted a picture of her with these things she did with her 5-year-old son. And so like a creative project, and that could be another way to exchange and shift from the fear response to what we call a life enhancing response. Is there anything else in there, Barb, that you can see? Anyone that wants to share something?
Nothing on Facebook. I don't see any chats
Okay,
either.
thank you. So we can move on. Basically, these are practices, as I said yesterday, that are really about building like a muscle. It's like building a muscle. A practice is something that we repeat, and eventually it basically sets a groove in our nervous system, and we don't have to rethink a strategy. So today we're going to talk about what it means to be guided from within. We're going to define higher wisdom, and we're going to practice together and connect to the guidance within and really find answers to maybe some questions that you might have. I am an experiential workshop leader. For the longest time, as I said, I had a mind body healing center for about 10 years. And so I'm really big on practicing more than talking. And I felt like yesterday I talked a lot and we didn't practice enough. So today I'm shifting gears and I'm saying we're going to talk less and practice more. But for now, I just want to say here, this is a quote from Buddha, actually. And it's basically, your vision will become clear only when you look in your heart. Who looks inside awakens. So it's saying that really there is a deeper sense of wisdom. And as I said yesterday, the mind is a poor master and a great servant. So when we talk about inner guidance, we talk about as many synonyms: inner guidance, higher self, divine self, the universe, God, goddesses, heart wisdom, spirit and spiritual self. So I am not advocating anything in particular. I have myself practice multiple forms of practices. I was on a yogic path for about 20 years. Now I am on a Buddhist path. And what I mean by this is simply finding ways, a structure that hold my commitment to connecting to my inner wisdom on a daily basis. So it is important to set a time aside every day. And what I mean by this is the mind will definitely take over and have stories that are very enthralling. And those stories have to be witnessed. So a daily practice is really about holding space where you can notice, you can be the witness of what happens in your mind, what happens in your emotions, and what happens in your body. And as you notice, you start being aware, which is there's not another word, that there's a part of you that is always the witness of what happens. So if we don't make that practice a daily practice, the mind really wants to take over, and our power, our awareness consciousness, take a seat back. It never goes away. And we make choices from this action reaction mode. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that at times it's important to take that step back, have that big picture. And I really do believe that when we have a health defining moment or health crisis, such as breast cancer, it is important to have a little more perspective, a wider perspective on what's happening, because there's a lot going on at the same time. A lot physically, could be uncomfortable, it could be pain, a lot emotionally, fear, anger, hopelessness. Mentally, the mind can be racing, the mind can go numb, the mind cannot, can be trying to control everything. And all of this happens. And if we forget who we are, because the practice of higher consciousness is a practice of remembering who we are, then we lose perspective, and it's easy to get sucked into the drama of what's happening. And I'm not saying it's something to be avoided. I'm simply saying that it is important to have both. So I want to talk about the heart coherence here, and I'm not going to claim that word. I'm trying to lower people here, because the Heart Math Institute is actually an institute that has existed and studied what's called heart coherence for over 20 years. And so what they have discovered, and they have done a lot of scientific research on that, is that the heart has waves that will influence both the brain, as in the nervous system, and also influence the immune system. So that means when we connect to our heart and we are able to regulate the waves of the heart, we actually influence both our nervous system, which is the fear response, and also the immune system, which is our hormonal system and other functions associated with it. So there are a lot of research also done on the effect of the heart. Like you can think, and maybe you have experienced that when someone is really calm, if you enter a room and somebody's really calm inside themselves, they have more power of influence on their environment than someone who's really revved up, anxious, excited. I'm not negating any of this, or fearful, addressing the room around them. There's something about being calm, centered, that has power, and it affects other people's heart. It's beyond the brain, it's really at the heart level, that cannot be achieved only when we speak. So it has to do with breath, and it has to do with the focus of our mind. We cannot focus on two things at the same time. We can only focus on one thing. The mind can focus on fear or focus on love, focus on fear or focus on faith. And the qualities of the heart, and I listed them there, are compassion, kindness, love. And in love, I also include self-love, and equanimity, which is finding the balance in all things. So when we foster those qualities, or gratitude is also part of it. When we foster those qualities, we not only balance the waves of the heart, but we also get the mind focus on what matters. So that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to reduce this slide for a second. So I'm just curious to see if anyone has had any relationship with what I'm talking about, connecting to their heart, meditation, gratitude, appreciation, kindness, compassion, anything. Let's see if anything shows up there. Anything, Barb? Is there anything you want to say, Barbara, about these qualities?
Oh, just how it changes the energy in your being, and even just in the moment. It's oftentimes like sometimes even the goosebumps come at that same time when you're feeling really connected to what is, and we talk about the greater truth, like
Mhm.
really living your greater truth, not living for others around you
Mhm.
or absorbing their energy, but just owning who you are. It changes everything.
Right. And when you talk about greater truth, you're reconnecting that to the great, I call it the greater self, the higher self, the deeper self. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does. It's that sense of being bigger than. I said that yesterday, being bigger
Yeah.
than what we experience. Yeah. So thank you.
Hmm.
So we're going to go into a practice for a moment, and it's an invitation for you to just have an experience with me and an experience with yourself mostly. And maybe you know what I'm talking about today, maybe you don't. There are two components to this practice. One is a body-centered centering experience, and one is a heart-centered experience. So body-centered really means that you are able to ground yourself. And I'm going to guide you through it so you don't have to do anything. And I have that listed on the PowerPoint so you don't have to try to remember anything. It's really just for you to have an experience of what it feels like. And if you're listening to this as a replay, you actually can practice this on a daily basis. It doesn't take that long. It could be a 5-minute moment, but it can literally shift physical, emotional, mental experience. Okay, so let's all close our eyes, and if I'm going to sit upright. So it's important to sit upright because I talked about the pillar of light yesterday, which is sort of like I see it like a river that comes from the crown of the head and goes all the way to the tailbone. And it follows the center, like around your spine. So you can imagine that coming through the crown of your head and going through the middle of your brain, the middle of your throat, the middle of your heart, in the middle of your solar plexus, the middle of your belly, and down in the tailbone and into the ground. So that's called the pillar of light. And it connects us both to the earth and to the universe. So I'm just gonna, you can, if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can just lower them for a moment. I'm gonna close mine because it helps me focus. And take a few deep breaths like we practiced yesterday on a count of 4. On the inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 2 and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out for 2. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it in and release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you can sit upright and just do a quick scan on your body. So that means you're scanning from head to toes. So as you're scanning, take a moment and even notice your forehead, the back of your head, your jaw, especially the jaw. So you may need to take your hands here. I'm going to do this and release. Press onto your jaw just to release the jaw muscles. You can stretch your mouth wide open. And then you can just simply let go of the tension around your neck. And then breathe into your, stretch your neck up and release your shoulders, release your heart, and release your solar plexus, and release your sits bones, your belly, and your legs, the thigh bones, the lower legs, and the feet. So for a moment there, just breathe. And here we go. So just, Barb, can you just take over for a second? I'll be right back. Just keep breathing with people. I'll be right back. Thank you.
So we're going to just breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 2. 1, 2. And then breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 2. 1, 2. Breathe out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, I had an unsuspected interruption. So as you do this, you want to either, if your eyes are closed or open, maybe they're open, you want to close them again. Just imagine that there is, from your hips down to the center of the earth, a tree trunk like energy line. So your hips are settled and you have, as you exhale, it's like going down the chute. You can simply release from your hips down all the way to the center of the earth. Anything that is standing in your way in this moment, anything that creates stress, just let it go. So let go down, down, down to the center of the earth. So one more breath, deep belly breath. And let it go. Release down your legs, your feet in the center of the earth. Anything that stresses you out right now, just let it go. The earth recycles. And just imagine a line of energy from the center of the earth. Create like a hook where you're going to hook yourself in the center of the earth and move that line back up through the different layers, like there's fire in the center of the earth and the different levels of rocks, bedrocks, and then into soft soil. And that line is coming through the tailbone, into the belly, into the solar plexus. So now you're coming up into your heart. And you are also lining up your shoulders, roll them back a little bit, and gently pull your chin back as if you had a hook at the top of your head and you extended the forehead and the crown of your head all the way up to the ceiling in the sky. And take some deep breath and just imagine space around your spine that opens up. Wider front, back, and side. Just breathe. And the crown of your head goes all the way up to the ceiling and to the sky and to the universe. And you open up, it's called a channel, a center, and you receive light from the sky. You can imagine the sun beaming light through the sky and through the crown of your head, and let that light come through in your body for a moment. Just breathe. And then come back into your heart. Just feel your heart. Again, the shoulders, you want to roll your shoulders gently up, back, and down. And rest your arms and rest your hands, especially your palms, on your thighs. And then breathe into your heart. Just imagine you can pull a chair. You can put a comfortable, either a chair or a seat in the center of your heart. And right in there, you sit. And the you that sits is a deeper part of you. You're sitting and there is like your wise self is taking a seat in the center of your heart. And just breathe. So you see her. You see the part of you that is wiser. Maybe you feel her. Maybe she's a little older than who you are at this moment. And maybe she doesn't even look like you. Maybe it's a part of you that you can imagine, a wise self, simply sitting there in the center of your heart. And then for a moment there, direct appreciation towards her, gratitude, and just thank that part of you for being there. She is always there. There's always that connection, even when we forget. And ask her for a moment to direct your attention in one area of your life that you're grateful for, something you appreciate. It could be your body in this moment, the space around you, the air you breathe. Continue deeply breathing. And if it's challenging to do this, just allow yourself in this moment to recognize the challenge without forcing. Know that you, no matter what, will find your way there. And bring into your heart anything that brings you joy. It could be a pet, it could be a child, it could be a special place, a person. And just imagine for a moment this being or this place. And keep modulating your breath and notice what happens to your heart as you appreciate, as you feel your way through this place, person, pet, maybe, where that really brings you joy and love, maybe even. And notice what happens to your entire body as you feel that sense of connection to that deeper self and bring appreciation to a person, place, pet, or anything that feels right, feels good, joy. It brings joy into your heart. And just take a moment there and thank this being or this part of you that is higher, deeper, wiser. And know that she never goes away. She's always there. And take a moment there. And if your eyes are closed, gently gaze down and open them. And look up towards the camera. And just take a moment and just connect. So the connection is not so much outward. Don't let your eyeballs stretch too much in the front. Just keep your eyeballs in your head and just notice where your body's at the moment and the feelings you might have. Sensations. Maybe your breath is deeper. Maybe you feel more grounded. And just take a moment and notice what it did to your entire body to have that moment of appreciation, gratitude, and connection. And let's take a moment there and just share maybe with each other what is going on here, what we're feeling. Do you see anything on the chat there, Barb? Or is there anything you want to share? No?
It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. What did
Yeah.
you notice? What are you noticing at this moment? I'm just curious.
I have the sensation of just goosebumps traveling.
Oh.
So there were different parts of my body where I could just feel the energy that it was shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And just it was interesting coming into the call. I felt tired
Mm.
because it was a busier weekend, and now I just feel like everything's balanced.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a powerful practice. It's a practice that is really something we can do at any moment. And all it requires is us making a decision. Now, tapping into the system, which is more the parasympathetic nervous system. So again, reconnecting to your higher self, connecting to your heart, bringing appreciation, rebalances your nervous system. Now, in that moment, you feel more calm, more grounded, maybe a wider perspective. Life is not so urgent. It is really the place to go to when you have to make life challenging decisions or life enhancing decisions. And what I mean by this is when we are on a breast cancer healing journey, we have to make a lot of decisions. And those decisions can feel scary. If you hear somebody in the background, my dog is really committed today to making noise. So I am going to give it one more minute. But for now, I think what I'm going to ask you to do is to just think, and I'll be right back. Think of one thing, one area in your life where you would like to receive guidance from, and identify that and I will be right back. And Barb is going to just keep holding the space, and we'll be back. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So let's all, just for a moment, take something that is not too big, not too big. And what I mean by this, don't choose a topic that feels so intense that you immediately feel like your brain is being hijacked, like your ability to think clearly is not there, and you just, right?
Yeah.
So let's just, small decisions maybe, something that comes to mind in terms of what maybe a point of, I'm thinking here, called it like a crossroad. Is there something that comes to your mind, Barbara, in terms of a decision that you need to make and you would just want to have some guidance on that decision? It doesn't have to be health related, it could be life related.
That's a good question. A crossroad would be, do you want to know what it is? Or
If you
just that I
feel
have one?
if you feel comfortable sharing, that's fine. If not, you can just keep it in your mind.
Okay. I am actually, for a smaller decision, I'm working on creating my morning routine. I'm redoing it.
Okay.
And so figuring out what to put in it, because our morning routine can, like, how long do you make it? So there's a crossroad. I haven't had a structured routine and now I want one.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Right up what we're talking about. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're on a sideline and just kind of watching this and you want to practice on your own, just take a moment and choose something simple. And we're going to go through this process, going back into our heart, sitting with at the seat with the higher self or the wiser self that is a part of us. And we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be not too long. It's just a practice and just to begin the process so that you can continue on your own later on. So again, we're going to just recenter. So if you need to, I'm sitting upright again. And, closing our eyes. And I know it's kind of strange that I close my eyes here on camera, but I really want to just have that invitation for you to drop into your heart. So just close your eyes and just go in and just imagine again that wiser part of you, deeper, wiser part of you that is just right there in the center. Take a deep breath. And when I say take a deep breath, take a few, 2 or 3. And imagine again that pillar of light. So open the crown of your head and let everything open. Let the center of your brain relax. Let the center of your throat and your neck relax. Let the heart center relax. Let your solar plexus relax. So lower the front ribs and lift more from the mid back. And let your belly relax, the low back especially. Let your hips be anchored. Feel the back of your thighs, your calves, your feet connected to the ground. So just take a whole body grounding moment again. Take a deep breath, open your jaw and exhale through your mouth. You can even open wide. And then settle back into your heart. So you may have a seat in front of your wiser self. You may have a seat there where you're looking at her, you're connecting with her. Maybe you're not sitting, maybe you're standing and she's standing, whatever connection you have in this moment. Take a moment and reconnect with her. and just ask her your question. In this case, Barbara, you would say, what would be a morning practice that I could implement? A simple one. And anyone else, whatever question you have, just ask, what would be, or how can I? And just settle and listen to the answer. It can be an image. It could be a sensation. You may hear words. Let that happen. And then slowly come back to yourself. Take a moment and thank this part of you for being there with you. And then come back and open your eyes. And tell me, Barb, if there's anything that showed up for you.
It showed up in a vision.
Tell me.
And it was my hands over my head. Just really, breath work is so important for me, and I don't spend a lot of time. So just doing this practice of deep belly breathing,
Yeah.
but starting the morning with filling, not just like the top third of our lungs with air, but the just really filling body with oxygen to heal, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
So there it is. That's your answer.
Yeah. And
So
it's simple.
yes.
So simple. Yeah.
So I just want to put a plug in for intuition. And when I said, if you have an image, a sensation, if you hear, if you feel, there are 4 levels of intuition. And usually I used to teach about this, but I felt like it was too much to plug in into one day. And so one is auditory, one is visual, clairvoyant, clairsentient is sensing, having the body sensations. So our intuition comes in different ways. We all have access to that deeper intuition. Clairaudient is what the words you say, you hear. And words don't necessarily have to be, it's not a long sentence and a story. It is really just a word, maybe, or two. And clairaudient, claircognizant is the knowing. The knowing, you have a sense of knowing and it just comes in. So the knowing about what you have to do, the hearing about what to do next, the seeing the next step, the feeling what would feel right is your intuition speaking to you. Yeah. So it's important to have these moments of connection with ourselves. That's why I talk about the daily practice. Because a daily practice is really where we set aside time. We carve out in our schedule a moment where we can simply be and go deeper. So what I highly encourage all of you, either here or if you are listening, is to set a time. And I say morning because the mind is not so busy when we get up, hopefully not too busy. So you can make a little bit of time ahead of time where you say, I'm going to spend 15 minutes. You don't need more than that. You can choose to have more than that if you want. And spend the first 5 minutes just breathing. And what we did today, body scan, release as you scan. You bring your awareness to the top all the way down to your feet. Connect your grounding cord, which is this pillar, tree-like trunk that goes from your hips all the way to the center of the earth. And then come back up, hook yourself up to the center of the earth, ground, and then go all the way up to the universe. So that's opening your central channel. And then come back into your heart, and that's a 5-minute thing. Now you can also place a hand on your heart to just locate the heart. And just imagine that being that you're connecting to, your higher self, wiser self. And as you develop a relationship with her, she may change forms, she may have a different way of connecting with you. And just ask these questions. Sometimes I don't see anything. I just focus on my heart, I breathe, and I just feel and sense my way through situations. And I have done this practice when I was going through my breast cancer surgery recovery, when I was going through my separation, my divorce, when I went back to school. Even if I had 5 minutes per day, that was my commitment to myself. I have done this practice, I want to say now, for over 10 years. And it has guided me through very challenging situations. I always ask, what, give me some guidance. It's kind of opening up to the universe and saying, I need a clue on what to do next. And the to do next is only one step. It doesn't have to be a long journey, a whole pad ahead from beginning to end. It's more like today on this day, there's a decision I want to make. Sometimes it's two or three. And you sort of bring your mind into focus and making that decision happen. So it cuts out all the static that the brain can connect, and the brain will create around making decisions. Maybe you have noticed when you want to make a decision and your brain is busy, it's maybe this, maybe that. No, not this. Oh, not that. Oh, no, if that happened. Oh, gosh. And then here we are. We have like, it's called the monkey mind. They say the mind is like a drunken monkey. It bounces off everywhere, but doesn't land anywhere. So that's what this practice does. So, any feedback on this, Barb? If you wanted, I keep calling on you. Thank you very much for being my co-leader here, my co-host.
Oh, absolutely. This is, I think sometimes, well, and it's that monkey mind, right, that you just said, where your brain makes things be more complicated or complex
Yeah.
than they really need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
it is. It's very simple. I'm gonna take a sip of one. So how we shift from fear-based reality to love-based reality is going into this space. Now, if you have fears that are just beyond words, some of us have had trauma that happened pre-verbal. There's no words, it's just a deep gut sensation. That also works. I have spent a lot of time meditating and holding myself as a child and just talking to her and just saying, I want to hear what you have to say, what you're afraid of. And I reassure her that I'm here. And I also invite my higher self to be part of this, holding the space for the healing of fear to happen. And that at time is just simply like, imagine, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but my dog is really afraid of thunder. And dogs don't raise, they don't think, can't talk a dog out of a don't be afraid kind of experience. And basically, I had to hug her and buy her what's called a thunder shirt. It's kinesthetic experience. You have that experience too, right? It's like when babies can't sleep, they swaddle them. They have these blankets called miracle blankets. So we all need that physical sensation of being held. And if we have had any sort of trauma in our childhood, our nerves may be kind of on fire, and we just need that feeling of being reassured. And that's what this meditation and this connecting to yourself every day is about. It's having this moment of reassurance that someone, which is you and your higher self, are holding this space. And that whatever you're going through, somebody's at the helm of the ship. And it's not your mind, it's not your fear. Does that make sense?
It's like the 2-year-old that keeps asking you questions and they want you to say no because they want to know that you're in charge, right?
Yes, yes, you got it.
They don't want everything they asked for. They want to know where the
Parameters.
yeah, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it.
Mm-hmm.
So having a meditation practice or a spiritual practice is really bad. It's that. It's like creating the structure, the space, the parameters to say, I, meaning the higher self and the heart in my whole being, knows that there's a deeper way of connecting to reality, and I'm going to commit to that. And that is the parameter. It's like, how do I reel myself in when everything is going nuts? That makes sense. Okay, so I actually want to invite you. I have an invitation for you if you're watching this. And my invitation is that whatever we have experienced yesterday, in terms of de escalating fear, identifying fear, de escalating fear, as I said before, is a practice. And today, what we did is a practice, reconnecting to your higher self. And tomorrow, we're going to talk about living in your mission, living in remission by remembering your mission. All of this is in our words, unless you bring it home into your life. Now, my offer to you is that I can guide you through a 45-minute experiment with me. I call it a life healing journey breakthrough session, heart centered, guided session, where you can literally map out your own way. What we did yesterday, identify the fears, find ways to alleviate the fears, creating life enhancing processes and practices in your life, and then connecting to your higher self and making those really challenging decisions so that your body, your heart, your breath can heal. And I really am here to tell you that you are here for a mission. All of us have a purpose. And somehow I'm not sure why we have to go through these healing crises. Sometimes it's almost like diamonds cannot shine without being exposed to a really high intensity heat and friction. So the way they make diamonds shine is by having them rub together really fast at high heat. And I believe that we are here for that purpose. We're shining brighter as we rub harder and we're getting under the fire. So that's what this breakthrough session is about. I want to invite you. There will be a link. There is a link here. Barb's going to post a link on the chat and also on the Facebook group page for you to set up this session with me. And what you're going to get at the end of that 45-minute session is really a map. It's a small map. How do you go from here to there? How do you go from where you were to where you want to go and take that first step? So please join me in really believing that it is possible to heal. I'm sort of countercurrent in that reality. And maybe you have experienced that yourself. You have been to other maybe support groups where you feel like there's a lot of sadness and fear and grief. And I'm not negating any of these emotions. I'm simply saying that it's important to have a parallel track, go through your experience, your human experience of recovery, and at the same time hold the higher possibility for healing to happen. So that's what this breakthrough session is about. Thank you for posting the link, Barb. Okay, so here we are. I want to tell you about a client that I actually worked with and that actually had a transformation. She actually was someone, her name is Nicole, and she was on a downward spiral, I would say. Trauma had happened in her childhood, inflammation was all over her body, digestive issues, muscular issues, fibromyalgia. Her cancer, breast cancer markers were positive. So she was literally on her way to getting sicker. She contacted me because, first of all, she was afraid. And she also knew that something had to change in her life. She was extremely busy. So the fight, flight, freeze response for her manifested in the fight category, which is keeping herself rolling at 100 miles an hour in every possible way. She was a single mother. She was someone who was involved as the president of a couple of organizations. She was also leading a group of women in a theater, theater group. And basically, her health was always in the background. It was always like a second thought. And then she had those issues, fibromyalgia, digestive issues. And it's only when the breast cancer markers showed up that she took that seriously. So when she came to me, obviously she was really afraid. And yet it was really hard for her to release and let go of all the busyness that was in her life and how important she thought all of these people were. So there's something about boundaries, breast cancer and boundaries that is related. Over giving is a thing of the heart. feeling like you have to help everybody and do more and never being enough. These are all the things associated, and I'm not making this up just based on my personal experience. I've interviewed women, and that's basically what they say. They are stretched out too thin and feel like they can never say no to people. And that sense of self-worth, self-esteem, self-love is kind of like in the background. We find our values through helping others. And again, I'm not negating that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a question of balance. So we worked together for 6 months. And simplifying your diet and creating a stress management plan for her, meditation, walking 3 times a week, having a moment by herself where she would journal and start processing her feelings, and also reducing the amount of activity that she had, balancing her life more and focusing on what mattered the most. And at the end of 6 months, her cancer markers actually came negative. So she did not she did not go fully into breast cancer. It was mostly like there was a precancerous cancerous condition that she was dealing with. So I'm saying this because it's really hard to change conditioning, right? I have my entire life, I've had coaches, therapists, teachers. I look for other people to hold that wider space for me when I cannot hold it for myself. And that is really what coaching is about, one-on-one and group coaching. It's about having other people holding you up when you're sinking down. It's about having, one of my favorite coaches that I'm working with, and Barb is also connected to her, says a rising tide lifts everyone. So if we are part of a movement where people are committed to elevating, we actually have more chances to overcome than if we either isolate or if we surround ourselves with people that are maybe feeling sad, sorry, and scared for themselves, but never look up to have a wider, bigger perspective. So that's what I want to say. Now, I want to branch out and come back to, is there any comments or questions? Barb? No? Okay. So I want to talk about, to wrap up today, I want to talk about two things. And I'm going to share here just a second. I have to share the screen again. And I want to talk about today's gift and everything that is actually, so the meditation is listed on the PowerPoint presentation. I want to talk about a book that I'm reading currently, and I'm going to give as a gift tomorrow. But of course, I moved it. So it's called Radical Hope. It's the second book written by Dr. Kelly Turner that wrote the first book called Radical Remission. And she's planted the seed, and I'm not planted the seed. She's actually identified through numerous interviews around the world, people that have survived extreme diagnoses of cancer. And she identified 10 factors that make people go into what's called radical remission. Spiritual connection is one. That's what we talked about today. Self-empowerment, self-worth is 2. Mindset, increasing positive emotions is 3. Following your intuition, which is what we touched on today, is 4. Releasing negative emotion, doing emotional processing, which is what we talked about yesterday, is 5. Changing your diet. And that, by that, I mean, I'm not, again, a proponent of a certain style of eating. I just know that there are some diets that are helps with inflammation. And that's really where the focus needs to be. Herbs and supplements, working with people who can help you enhance your immune system activity. Having strong reasons for living. That is an important one. Knowing why do you live and what do you live for, which is what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Being in remission means remembering your mission. What pulls you forward? And an exercise is the 10th factor that she actually identified on the second book that wasn't part of the first book. So that's a sneak preview. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about remission, remember your mission. But for today, I'm actually jumping ahead and telling you you're going to have this book tomorrow as a gift. But for today, I actually want to give you a gift that was a book that was really important for me if you want to participate in contest number one. It was a book written by Anita Morjani, who is someone who came back from cancer. And she was in stage 4 lymphoma for 30 hours in a coma in a hospital, basically had what's called a near-death experience. She was given the choice, and that's why I want to give the book. She was given the choice to stay or come back, and she chose to come back. And as she was doing her journey on the other side, and she's well known now in the world. She does a lot of public speaking, teaching workshops. She just wrote another book entitled Sensitive is the New Strong, talking about empath and the connection between people who soak in other people's emotion and get sort of over flooded with those energies, and teaching people how to release that. But in her journey on the other side, she really identified the source of all power, which is what we were connecting on today with the pillar of light, the source of all power that is really true unconditional love. She talked about a level of love and a love that is so deep that our mind cannot even conceive of that. And that book was one of the key component of my first remission or my first breast cancer journey. That's what really reinforced the fuel of my fire for implementing a daily practice. I already had one, but that one was just like, okay, I'm going to remember who I am. I'm going to remember that there is love inside of me and I'm connected to it, not only through my own physical heart, but also through my spiritual heart. So that's the gift. And if you want to go on a Facebook group and post your spiritual practice, not no matter what that is, like Barb, you can go ahead and just write, I intend on implementing um, however minutes you want to do it, a deep moment of breathing, breath, connection to body, scanning, releasing through breath. That would be your practice. You can post that. It doesn't have to be complicated. We're not trying to be living on the Himalayas here on the top of the mountain and being enlightened gurus. We're just trying to be a human being we want to be a spiritual being having a temporary human
Human
experience.
experience, yeah.
Yeah. So any last thoughts on today, Barb? Yes, go ahead. Any last thoughts or feelings on today?
Beautiful and amazing. Before we check out though, who the winner was from yesterday.
Oh, that was Melissa. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
yes, yes.
Yay.
Melissa is actually, she's private messaged me. But yes, she is the winner.
Mhm.
Thank you for reminding me.
Oh,
She
absolutely.
wins the CD. And I highly recommend that CD, by the way. It's really a meditation on healing and breathing and really bringing healing energy into the heart. So,
Mhm.
and into the entire body. It's really fostering the belief that there is the ability, that the body has the ability to heal. Deepak Chopra is really big on that.
Yes.
Changing, yeah. Thank you.
This is just beautiful. Just the information I learned. I've been taking notes. I learned things from you, and really being able to the thing that you just said is I'm going to remember that there is love inside of me and that I'm going to connect with that love. That's part of remembering your mission, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's really about, I really do believe that, I see breast cancer. I visualize in the morning where things are in my chest, and I have a connection to it, and I send light and love to it every
Oh,
morning because I feel like it needs to be held in a wider, a deeper, a wiser place. And I'm not like, that's why I said yesterday, breast cancer is not the enemy. It is
yeah.
a message, and it is actually a messenger with a message, and I communicate with it, and I tell it, I'm here, I'm holding space, I'm holding light, and I'm holding love, and we'll see what happens, right?
And you had said something along those lines yesterday. I was going to go back and check. It to me, it translated to being angry with my body.
Mm.
And that really, like, as we get older, I was using words like my body was betraying me.
Yeah.
And there's this piece that you want your body to just function
Mhm.
and not really understand that it's really just a continuation of who you are.
Yes. And our body is a vehicle, the vehicle of our soul.
Yeah.
And it's, so important to not take it for granted and not treat it like it's a slave, like
Right.
it's a thing.
Yeah, like separate from who we are. It's really part of it's the skin for us. And
Yeah.
to not being angry with it isn't going to make it function better at all. So that
Right.
was huge. Yeah.
Thank you. And so before we end, I just want to remind everyone, yes, to mylifeacademy.com is a calendar posted on the main page where you can set up a 45-minute session with me to really get into your own healing journey, releasing your fear, finding a way to manage and balance your energy, and also having your own connection to your deeper self. So yes, to mylifeacademy.com. And I want to then turn it over to Barb, and I want her to have a couple minutes to talk about Sisters Rocking
Oh my
Courage.
goodness.
I know, right? Go for it, lady.
Oh, thank you so much. Completely unexpected, but it's really so much of what we do, Chantel, is it really flows into each other, right?
Mhm,
So with the whole trauma piece, there's so much of that for me for my journey because trauma, we've talked about our ACE scores, and anything more than 3 really affects the rest of your life. It can. It's not that it has to be that way. So what we do in Sisters Rocking Courage is we create a really safe space for women to come together to validate each other, make eye contact, make that heart to heart contact, and really connect with each other about what our mission is. Our mission isn't to be a victim. It isn't, but I will speak for myself. I got stuck there for a long part of my life and it affected the decisions that I made. And yet at the end of the day, when I did that, that just kept the trauma alive and present in my everyday. And it created the darkness around, right? And so when you talked about the pillar of light, I love that because there's so many women, myself, and really this was a healing journey for me that
mhm,
focused on the darkness, that spent time in the darkness, that didn't know how to get out of the darkness.
mhm.
And so what you're doing to women by putting a hand out for this um, for the Yes to My Life Academy is, you know what? Let's stand up. Let's find our voice. Let's find our light, and let's join arms and move into the next chapter of our life together with love.
Yeah,
So, Sisters Rocking Courage, what we do is we come together. Whatever your dream is, mine is a little more complicated. Chantel, you were saying like, what is the simple, easy? Like, where's the crossroad? But if you're at a point in your life where you want more, and you know whatever, if it's a job that you've been doing that is really a grind, like there's a dream you've had that you've put to the side or said not now, or that can be done later. We start working on it now, and we do it one step at a time. You don't have to do it a lot. You don't like people say like I need to take action. Just one step, right? Just one step, and then you feel whether or not that's the right step for you. And you're doing that with other women that are encouraging each other. It's a really beautiful place.
right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. So what you hear from what Barbara is saying is sort of like on the continuum of what we talked about today and yesterday, which is how do we transform? And transform means changing form from whatever our past conditioning was to who we are today, to who we want to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is really the connection. Women together are very powerful. I have this feeling and this image that really we are holding each other arm in arm together, walking in the face of challenging situation at times and holding that light for each other. So either it's going through breast cancer, either it's going through a moment in life where you're feeling like your job is soul sucking and you need an uplift and you want to
Mhm.
find your way through that to find really what your mission is. That's what Barbara is talking about. So we're all doing the same, not the same. We're doing similar work,
Mhm.
approaching it from different angle, but we are holding the light together. So thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you, Barbara.
I'll
And
say one more thing
yeah,
that you said earlier too is we can't do it alone.
no, we can't.
That's what we do as women. We tend to we're strong and we're determined because that's what got us through the trauma, right? That's what saved our life before. And now we're in this new place. So as you what you were just saying, Chantal, I can't create my healing journey by myself.
Right,
I can't.
right.
And that's yeah.
Yeah, it's the reconditioning and the deconditioning, reconditioning. So again, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you,
Mhm.
Barbara, for holding space with me. And the
Absolutely.
couple
Mhm.
of times where I had to turn off the camera, thank you everyone for being patient with me. My dog was definitely having a moment
Beautiful.
today, but hey, here's life, right?
Mhm.
So tomorrow we talk about remission, being in remission, which means remember your mission.
Mhm.
When I went through the 10 factors of radical hope, having a strong reason for living is what pulls us forward. It's one of the key factors towards these radical remissions. So that's what I want to talk about tomorrow. So until then, oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Nisreen, and everyone for listening. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye, Barb. Bye, everyone.